914 words within target range. Here's the finished script. There is a staffing system called the congressional detail. It appears in no bill you've ever seen debated, and it has quietly paid people to work inside Congress on someone else's budget since 1970. No press conference announced it. No committee held a vote on whether it should exist. It was tucked into a personnel statute with a bureaucratic name, the Intergovernmental Personnel Act. And over 50 years later, it still lets federal employees draw their salary from one agency while doing legislative work for another, with almost no one outside Washington aware the arrangement even has a name. Here's what it actually is, stripped of the jargon. When a member of Congress or a committee needs expertise, someone who understands nuclear regulation or immigration law or a weapons system, they don't have to hire that person onto the congressional payroll. They can simply have that person detailed from an executive branch agency. The employee keeps working. Their agency keeps paying them. Congress gets their labor for free, off the books of its own budget. On paper, no new hire happened. In practice, someone from the Pentagon, the EPA, or the Justice Department is sitting inside a Senate office, drafting language, advising staff, shaping policy, and Congress never has to account for the cost, because as far as its own books are concerned, that person doesn't exist. This didn't happen by legislative accident. It happened by legislative design in 1970, when Congress passed the Intergovernmental Personnel Act to let federal and state employees rotate between agencies for training and development. Nobody debated whether Congress itself should be allowed to absorb that labor for free. The provision was broad enough to cover the legislative branch almost as an afterthought, and once it was law, no single vote was ever required again. Every detail since has been an administrative transaction, a form, a signature, an interagency agreement, never a roll call. The mechanism was authorized once in general terms, and then it ran on autopilot for over half a century, renewing itself quietly with every new Congress that never had to reauthorize it. Who controls it now isn't Congress in any meaningful sense. It's the agencies doing the detailing, and the committee chairs and leadership offices deciding who gets one. There's no central public roster of how many details are working inside Congress at any given moment, no consolidated report naming which agency sent whom, and no requirement that the arrangement be disclosed the way a staffer's salary or a lobbyist's meeting would be. The Government Accountability Office has flagged the gap in oversight more than once. Nothing changed. Here's why it matters to you specifically, not abstractly. Say a bill regulating a chemical, a drug, or a financial product is being drafted. The staffer writing the technical language might not be a congressional employee at all. They might be an EPA scientist or an FDA analyst on detail, paid by the very agency the bill is meant to regulate, sitting in the room shaping the rule that governs their own employer's industry. That's not a hypothetical. Details from regulatory and defense agencies have been placed on committee staffs before, and their agency affiliation surfaces, if it surfaces at all, only in a footnote or a disclosure buried in a committee report nobody reads. You experience the outcome, the loophole preserved, the requirement softened, the enforcement provision quietly narrowed, with no way of tracing it back to who actually held the pen, what agency they answered to, or what interest that agency had in the outcome. Remember, no one voted for this system to exist. It was authorized once in 1970 for an entirely different purpose, and it has been running itself ever since, invisible to the people it governs. And here's the part that should actually worry you more than the secrecy: it's completely legal. Every one of these arrangements complies with the statute, down to the letter. There's no scandal to prosecute here, no ethics violation to cite, no investigation waiting to happen, because the law was written wide enough to permit exactly this. The people running it aren't breaking rules. They're following them precisely. It cannot be repealed the way you'd repeal a bad law, because no single law created the problem. A general personnel statute did, and unwinding it would mean rewriting how every federal agency loans out labor across the entire government, not just to Congress. No committee owns that fight. No member has an incentive to end a system that quietly staffs their own office for free. The agencies benefit from the access it buys them inside the rooms where their budgets and their rules get written. Congress benefits from the labor it doesn't have to pay for. The only party with an interest in ending it is the public, and the public has no formal mechanism to force the question, because the original authorization required no vote. So ending it would require building a coalition against a benefit everyone currently receives, and no one wants to give up. If a personnel rule from 1970 can invisibly staff the body that writes your laws, the real question isn't how many detailees are in the building right now. It's how many other quiet transactions like this one are running, uncounted, underneath every other institution you assume is fully staffed by the people it claims to employ.